So you can see this screen, right?
Yes.
So this is a 5-year-old presentation, and the basics haven't changed. Some data might have changed. Uh, this is just to show what is the extent of strawberry industry value in terms of what they produce, how much it is. It is like 2.1 to 2.6, or it fluctuates. But as you know, California is the largest producer of strawberries. And important thing here is the fresh market is 75% and processing is 25%. What happens is, um, as early as possible in the year is when they fetch higher prices. So if once the value or the demand gradually declines, they move on to processing strawberry. um, so these are old statistics. Depending on how much is produced and average yield, this is significantly higher than any other country. So then the cost is just an approximation or estimation, because we never get the actual values clearly, and again it fluctuates. So non-harvest cost is $54,000 just for field preparation, maintaining the crop and all that, and the harvest cost is this much. Like it is an old value, $2.6 per tray, and based on the average production, this is how much you expect. So the total cost is quite a bit per acre, both to produce the crop and the harvest, right? It's a 110,000 or whatever. So this is the estimated profit. Then if you look at, the important thing for us to understand is why strawberries are why is it a hot commodity in California? It is mainly because of the environment enables it. So we need these, the nursery crops. The transplants are produced in these areas, okay, mainly. And that higher temperature, colder temperatures are very essential for the transplants to harden, and basically for the plant physiology. Those environments are ideal. That's why they grow them there. They just, produce by means of runners. So they spread on the ground and then they harvest. And these three areas, Watsonville, Santa Maria in Santa Barbara County, and then Ventura County, this is Oxnard area, are three producers, producing areas. In other areas, you see small farms, but these are significant. So if you can see again, Watsonville acreage is always higher. It is much colder than the other two areas. Ventura County, Oxnard is very warm. So the production starts early. That's why you see this. You see the peak reaching faster, the green one, earlier in the season. Then you see they all complement each other. Because of that, you see this high production for several months. Like if you look at this, right, about March to July, August. So that's how the three regions, because of the environment, warmer here starts producing early, and when it's a kind of declines, this one picks up, Santa Maria, and then when this declines, then this one picks up. So that's how they produce. Okay. And this is quickly to show, like, strawberry, the flower, and then it is how the fruit develops. And for the flower development, it requires a specific nighttime temperatures, like 54 or something like that. So that is why it is ideal. The Central Coast area, the daytime is fairly warmer in the sense like 70s, 80s, sometimes 90s, so which promotes the plant growth. And night times are very cool, so that promotes the physiological maturity of the flowers and fruit development. So if this is just to show like how long it takes. Like you have the mother plants that nurseries, like the breeders give the mother plants to nurseries, and they develop from there. You have a daughter plant from the runners, then they take the meristem, it is like a tissue culture, and they produce from there. And then, from one plant, you end up having 20 million plants down the road, like, after multiple generations. Depending on the variety, they cost a few cents to, usually a few cents, like 10, 12, or 15, 20 cents a transplant. So this is how the first generation is produced. And this is like taking the meristem and the tissue culturing, and then taking it to these first generation daughter plants still in the greenhouse. And then once it is, then they take them to this foundation block. That is when they go outside to the field, and then they're multiplied again. Then they go back to, see, this is a kind of your region, Central Valley area, middle of California kind of region, warmer. And then they take it back to high elevation nurseries in Northern California. So this is where the daughter plants, basically these runners, these produce, this forms roots here, and this is a plant, and then it produces runners. So they spread like that, and they don't want any flowers. It is just a vegetative growth. So this is how they actually take care of these plants. Like they sometimes have to spread them so that they are uniformly spreading all over the field in all directions, and then they remove flowers too as needed. And this is actually the digging equipment. So it digs under and then basically pulls, and then this drum here, this drum rotates and shakes the soil of the transplant. Then they take them to these processing sheds. These are basically these blades of those knives. They have this plant. They trim the roots, like they keep them about like 4 to 6 inches or something like that. And then the top is also probably 3 inches or 4 inches. So they trim them, and then they put them in these boxes, and they have to dig them during the night time because of the cold temperatures. So it is a very active, like a very highly active, busy season during October time. That's when, or maybe even early October. Then they take them to the freezers. They put them in the cold storage. Sometimes they need a few days before they are shipped out to the production fields. So this is just to show there are short duration, short day varieties or June bearing, right? And then they day neutral. These are what mostly are preferred because they depend less on that, daylight conditions and so on. So this is what a typical strawberry field looks like in Santa Maria and Oxnard area. Watsonville fields they have 2 rows only, narrower beds and 2 rows. So whatever you are designing, it's mainly for these 2 regions, and then the adjustments that we are talking about earlier, that helps to adapt to other locations. So it is very important to have not heavy soil, like loamy soil is good because you form the beds and then the roots have to develop and so on, right? Irrigation and all that. So this is how they fumigate. Methyl bromide was a very good and effective fumigation, fumigant that is no longer available. They have other chemicals that they use to fumigate, or they could also apply rice bran and then irrigate it. So those anaerobic conditions kind of kill the bacteria. They promote certain microorganisms and they kill the bacteria or fungal pathogens, whatever is in the soil. So this is extensive. You see they cover the entire field. This could be like thousands or hundreds of acres. They cover it, then they inject the fumigant underneath, and then it has to take its time to do what it is supposed to kill. There are no soil-borne insects in this area, usually not a problem. There are no nematodes, plant pathogens, and weeds are an issue, and that is what they do. That's what they fumigate to control. And then the other way of fumigation is they form the beds, and then they have drip irrigation tapes underneath, and it is also a different way. So you inject it, and then it provides that fumigation rather than doing this first and then plowing and making beds, you can already do all that and then fumigate. This is another way. So this is quickly to show the field preparation, how they basically form the beds and make sure that everything is done correctly, and depending on the soil and then equipment measurements and dimensions, whatever, the beds are uniform, right? And then they roll to make sure that it is all leveled. And then this is what you saw earlier, right? I shared it. So these are two configurations, 4 here with 2 drip lines here, and this is where they put the fertilizer. Fertilizer they apply while land preparation or during the bed formation, and then they also apply throughout the crop production time, like drip irrigated, drip applied, or sometimes they apply certain nutrients as foliar spray. So this is then I think this one is like single drip tape, 2 beds, right? And here it is either 3. This was during an experiment, that's why they have 3. Usually it is 2, like I showed here. It is 2 drip tapes for the 4 rows and just 1 for this 2 rows. So that's what you're seeing, 1 for 2 rows and supposed to be 2, but here they have 3. Okay. And then this is how they lay the drip tape, basically hold it, and then as the tractor moves and the unrolls, and then kind of puts about one inch or 1 to 2 inches, something like that, 1 inch below the surface, and then they level it again. Like they make sure that it is covered and leveled, and then they put the, I don't have the photo of how they put the plastic mulch, but after the mulch is there, this is how they poke holes for transplanting. So this is how a transplant looks like, about 4-6 inches here, and then this is the crown area, and this is just petioles. They don't have any leaves there, and the crown is what develops into a new plant. And the cold temperatures are necessary for it to accumulate carbohydrates in the nursery fields before they come, and when they are in the fruit production fields, then the carbohydrates help them to grow well. So here they make the holes, and then these transplants are placed manually. They are inserted. The important thing is to make sure the roots go like this, not bent. Then it's a tricky thing. Then this is how they put them. Then here, this is like a young field, newly transplanted strawberry field. You also see different colors of the mulch, like different growers have different preferences. They try to use the ones with the transparent top, which allows the heat to be absorbed during early stages, promotes the root growth. And the sides are black, dark, but I may have it here. Here. So the transparent top, this is the whole thing is transparent. And then this is very common these days, transparent top and dark sides. And you see white ones in summer. Summer is obviously very hot, and they use the white, so it absorbs less heat. So they use white mulch during summer plantings. Other fall planting, they use any of these. And then the next one, quickly, just it is how much fertilizer they use. Because fertilizers are inexpensive, and traditionally they are known to promote crop growth, increase yields. So a lot of fertilizer is used, but plant has a limitation, like how much you apply to the soil, how much is available actually to the plant, and how much of that is plant actually using is all different. So there are new restrictions now to reduce this nitrogen contamination of soil and groundwater. So everybody is more careful in applying. But it does use quite a bit of nutrition, because the production is continuous from almost from February, March to however long you keep. These are just micronutrients. And then irrigation, it also uses about um, 24 to 29 inches of water, and it is like 1 to 3 times depending on the season and how much, how hot the environment is, and what stage the crop is growing at. And this is just to show cultural practices, like they go around, remove any diseased or like any materials that, I mean any plants that are dead or diseased or have serious problems, they remove, clean up. And then important thing is, you see these trucks spraying water on these driveways to control dust. It helps to keep the fruit or crop clean, and dust also increases. And they do the same thing with these grass or some kind of cereal crops they grow as a protection, like a dust does not blow, because it is very windy in these areas. Dust can also promote spider mite growth, so they use this watering or growing these hedge plants. And this is sometimes again, this is experimental, just for kind of erosion control, but not very common. You don't see that anymore. And then they sometimes grow these insectary plants to support beneficial insects. This is wild mustard and alyssum and some other things they grow, and they attract natural enemies to control some pests. And this one is for controlling spider mites. They are releasing these predatory mites. So they have these vermiculite, basically small bottles with predatory mites. They come refrigerated, and then they release them. Basically, they walk and sprinkle them. Now they can be released by drones too. And there was a practice of pruning at the end of summer or early fall or sometime during that time, to allow the plants to grow again rather than replanting. They were trying to do this, but there were some issues, so it is not very common. This would be like second year berries. Then coming to harvesting, okay, so this is how they harvest. Lots of people, and they are very fast. No machine can be as efficient as them. So manual harvesting is very effective, efficient, and you probably heard of these robotic harvesting machines. They have significantly improved in their efficiency, but they cannot be a replacement to manual harvesting, because this is very fast and efficient. And important thing is, they harvest and someone inspects them, and see, this is what they're doing. They bring them to the table, they inspect and make sure that everything is okay. Occasionally there might be a berry that does not meet the requirement. They move things around, and then they double check the weight sometimes, and then everything goes into this loaded onto these trucks, and within 2 hours of harvesting they go to the coolers, because it is very important. They don't get washed or processed. So the strawberries are as clean as the person picking. The hands as clean as the hands of the person picking, and then they're supposed to wear gloves. But you know how everybody is. So if you're buying strawberries, don't just eat them without rinsing. So this is the processing strawberry. Okay, on the top, I want to show some growers have this big this tractor-driven equipment with this big platform. So they put them. This is basically to reduce the time these people harvest and run back and forth, right? So this is going through the beds, and they harvest and put it on the platform, and then it immediately gets picked. And this one is processing strawberry, what you see in the frozen strawberries, or maybe that developed into some kind of canned strawberries. So they don't put them in these clamshells. They harvest them like this, because they have to remove that calyx part and then the pedicel part, and then they put them like this into these big trays. And these are, I think, probably 15, 20 pounds or something, I don't remember. And then they obviously go to freezer for, immediately they will be immediately processed. And this is just to show all these porta potties and the water and soap and paper towels are provided, for them to be clean and to ensure food safety. And then this is the cooler. They go into these coolers and they use this kind of thing, because you see what happens when you have a stack of all those trays. The cooling takes much longer inside, so they use this kind of fan, so it basically blows all the hot air out of that, in between those trays, and it uniformly cools the trays, and that is it. And then I think this is the bug vacuum. I think I showed this photo before. So this is an older photo, and there have been a lot of changes or improvements. And this one is growing strawberries in tunnel. So this increases the growth, like it speeds up the growth early in the season, and it helps them to have probably by late January or February or March, so that they can get to $20 or more per tray, whereas in the peak of the season it can be $8. So these tunnels provide that additional protection, but again, you see some issues with that too. The microclimate changes, it could be problematic for diseases, or later on it becomes very hot and so on. And this is a greenhouse production, not very popular yet. This is not in the US, this is from Netherlands. So this is how they do. And then harvesting, everything is different in a place like this. Whereas, you have beds that harvesting is different. And when you have height, the tabletop strawberries, it is a different process. Well, that's what I have to quickly show you how strawberries are produced. So the reason I'm saying is there are so many practical issues, from seeing some photos, and you pick your own berries kind of system, to reading about the strawberry production versus seeing videos versus actually going to a farm and seeing, and again hearing from someone who worked, because it is a lengthy process to learn. There are so many fine details. It is not just like any other crop. Strawberry is very sensitive to the environment and these practices, and then research in California provides all these advancements, when to harvest, how to spray, and what to do. So it helps you to understand why it is so valuable. And anything you develop as a tool has to be very convincing, because a lot of people are investing their time and money and effort into producing these high quality strawberries. So they look everything under X-ray. So whatever we develop, not just about the project you are working on, whatever I do for pest or disease control too, it has to be very convincing. Hope you find this information useful.
Yes, very useful. And we also can see that there's a big room for a higher level of automation. So it's very labor intensive. Yeah. So, any other questions? And I want to ask Dr. Dara, please. This time, good time to ask. This is a very nice overview. I never had such a broader, complete overview of this strawberry from 0 to 1.
Yes.
It's perfect.
It is. There is a lot that happens in the nursery areas that we don't get to understand. We only see the fruit, right? Fruit, and then to some extent harvesting, but we don't know what happens in the background. How varieties are developed, and so I whatever I find useful for myself, I realize that others can benefit too.
So before we move on, so I'm going to stop the recording.